I'm Patricia Nicole, Well Professionals Global Ambassador, and I do know a lot of you who are going to be on this stream, so if you are one of my friends on social media or someone that I may talk to in my chat, welcome. I'm so excited to be here. As a co-creator of Shinefinity, it is such an honor and a pleasure, and this product is near and dear to my heart. I started working with Well about 2 years ago to come up with this very much needed, just the innovation behind this product is amazing. So that is why we are here today, to talk to you about this line. So let me introduce Shinefinity to you. Shinefinity is a color glaze with shine you can feel. And there are 32 shades that are a part of Shinefinity. For families, you have your warm, your natural, and your cool, including your boosters. All of the shades are zero lift, zero damage. And again, I'd like to reiterate the fact that it is shine you can feel. The other talking point is something that is also very special about Shinefinity, which is the pH balance technology. That is going to leave the hair in such an amazing condition. So it is perfect not only for straight hair, but textured hair as well. I'm going to show you a model, or not a model, a mannequin head. This is the mannequin head that as she came. As you can see, she has no color, just simple, dark. And then I actually created 2 looks for you because I wanted you to see sort of the range and what was possible. So I did my Shimmer Melt Glaze. Oh, let me talk about Shimmer Melt Glaze. Shimmer Melt Glaze is a service that I co-created, and it is one to give you the painted hair kind of look. It is going to give you lots of beautiful shine, but also a lot of dimension, as you can see in her hair. Okay. So I was able to create a lot of beautiful lightness and then also internal depth. Just, let me try this one. And then this is the back. So it really gives you that painted hair look. And I did that with my Shimmer Melt Glaze service. Also, I wanted to show you sort of the coppers and reds and a melt that I was able to do on this mannequin hair that had some texture in her hair. And it is just so beautiful what you were able to really create using that Shimmer Melt Glaze service as well. So let me go ahead and put her back. Let's see if you can see her a little bit better. Yeah. Okay, so I pre-lightened a mannequin, and she's right here, and I am gonna go ahead and start on her. But before I start, I wanna encourage you guys to ask questions. Go into the chat because we are going to be doing a giveaway with 3 winners, and you guys are going to be winning the Shimmer Melt Glaze kit. So be sure to look for more direction in the comments, and be sure to ask questions because that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you guys and get you guys familiar with the product. So, all right, let's get started. So I'm gonna put on my gloves, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about my formula because that's really important. As you can see, this was the starting level, and what we are going to be creating is this look. So we kind of go out just like that. All right. So I have 2 ways that I'm going to be applying the color, and that is going to give me a little bit of leeway into talking about sort of what the application methods are and what kind of activators you're going to be able to use for that in particular. So I'm going to start off with the 06/07, and this is going to be with a bowl and brush. I already have it mixed up. It's a 1-to-1 mixing ratio, and it has a dedicated activator. The activator is going to be for the bowl and brush, which is super important. The difference between the activators is not the strength, but it's really just One is going to be thicker consistency for more precise like root applications. And then one is going to be a thinner consistency. This is going to be the bottle with my mid-length and end formula. And this is going to really mix up really easily. And it's going to be thinner consistency, so that way you are able to spread it a lot easier. And then the mid-length and ends formula is going to be 09 stroke 13. So we have 06 stroke 07 melted into 09 stroke 13. And then what I did is I used this 06 stroke 07 to create a low light within her hair as well. So she'd have a veil of lightness, and then internally she'll have depth, which is what I use this for. Now, one thing that I want to talk about a little bit is the fact that her base is darker than the 06, but it's perfect because I'm creating multi-tones throughout the hair. So even though I have a darker base, melted into a mid-tone, melted into the lighter mid-lengths and ends, that's really going to give her all kinds of beautiful dimension and color throughout her hair. And that's really what I want you guys to do when it comes to Shinefinity, is play around with it, because like I said, there's 32 shades that you can intermix, and you can just create endless looks. And so I can't wait to see what you guys create with this. So I'm going to get started. All right. Awesome. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about the number one feature. My favorite feature of them all is the amazing shine. So I actually had Shinefinity put in my own hair, and my hair is still shiny. It's so manageable. Even though I just had it colored, I had, I wanted to try it out for myself. Obviously, I've had 2 years of working with it and had it in my hair, but just recently I did it again right before another show, and my hair was just shiny. It's still shiny and awesome. So I want to speak to the fact that it is shine you can feel. Another thing that I want to talk about is the fact that it does have the pH balance technology, which means that it's going to start mildly alkaline, and then it's going to become acidic once it touches the hair. And the important sort of technology behind that is that you are going to have true zero lift, and the hair is going to actually retain the color, and you're going to have longevity with it. So another thing about the pH balance is that you're not going to have unpredictable results. So a lot of times with any sort of line that is going to be zero lift, what you're going to run into is the fact that because there is no alkalinity in it, what's going to happen is the hair in porous areas will be unpredictable. So that's why a lot of times you have to sort of watch the color. With this line, you do not have to do that, which is another thing I can talk about, which is the services. There are 4 services, and within those services are times. So 10 minutes if you're doing a speed gloss, a speed glaze, and then also if you're doing a corrective glaze, it's going to be 20 minutes. If you're going to be doing a shimmer milk glaze, you can kind of do 20, 10, just depends on how fast you're able to get the product in the hair. And then also a color balancing glaze. So you have 4 services within this line that you're going to be able to create amazing results with. And again, the color does process in 10 minutes, but also you want to manage your time with that, so you can go 20 minutes and still get beautiful true tone results. Obviously, the longer you leave it on, the richer the hair is going to be. You want to think of the color line as like a translucent veil of color. So the longer that the color processes in the hair, the more richer the color result is going to be, but not going to be unpredictable. So that is another key point about this line that is so amazing, and something that you guys should definitely know about, because if you are going in and you're doing any color melting, any shadow rooting, that's going to be something that you want to be mindful of, because especially if you're putting anything darker on the roots, you don't want it to go too dark. Or if you're going in and applying a lighter color through the mid-lengths and ends, especially if you're doing a cool tone, or like this is a light blonde, which is an ash gold, you know that it's going to be true to the swatch. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and move into my service. So I went ahead and I already sort of parted my mannequin. As you can see, I'm gonna just flip her over like that. Just the standard part. I parted her down the middle and then from the crown all the way down to her nape. And this is going to give me the outline for how I'm gonna start my application. So for her, I'm not going to drag the tone down, but if you want a bolder look and you really, really want to see depth and sort of that like true teardrop, like what you see with my work, you really do want to drag that root down, but you want to be careful of the shade that you're choosing to color melt with. So it shouldn't be darker than what her base already is. And also, you know, I think that really the Shimmer Melt Glaze is a segue into what I do, but then also allows you, you know, artistic flexibility and creativity. So with that being said, I'm going to start off. So I have my wide Wella brush. This is my temp brush that I use for gray coverage. And so I'm just going to start in the back, and I'm going to start right at the top. And I'm just going to outline. I'm going to outline where, let's see if I can do it this way so you can see where I'm going to place her color. And everybody has their application, the way that they like to apply color. This is just what works for me. Again, we are artists, we have creative, you know, freedom to be able to apply however we want, but this is really just kind of how I'm able to move through the hair very quickly, because that's another thing too, is that you don't want to take so much time when you're applying this, because really you don't, you know, I mean, even if you did, it didn't matter because it wouldn't like over process, but still, this is a quick service that's going to give you a maximum result. So, all right, and I'm going to go in. I'm just going to take my tint brush at the end and just start laying that color down. And now you don't have to drag it down right away. You can drag it down later. So after you apply right at the root area, just like that, melting is the key to everything. It is the key to getting your seamless blends. And a lot of times I feel like stylists, you know, they struggle with that because they'll put a lot of color in the hair, but they're not really, you know, familiar with how to really use their color melting to their advantage. So no matter what technique they use, it's all in color placement afterwards as well to create, you know, a stunning red look or a multi-dimensional brunette look, all of that. And that's why I love Shinefinity as well, is because it's easy to use, the colors are beautiful, yeah, and you can mix them together to get the perfect shade. So
awesome.
now
I love that.
Yeah.
We actually got another question of, can you use Shinefinity on all textures of hair?
Yes, that's a great question. As you guys know, I work with all textures of hair. And so you are going to be able to, and that's really, let me just bring, I know the mannequin head's not like truly textured, but it did have a little bit of a wave to it. So I wanted just to show you guys like how pretty that wave is in her hair. And I just really let her air dry. Sorry, she's a little crazy. She's got a crazy part. But the pH balance is going to help to keep the cuticle smooth. So anytime you have a smooth cuticle and you have a curl pattern or any sort of a light wave, that is going to help make the hair manageable. That is also going to help the curl pattern come through. And so that is why the pH balance technology is so important. Also, you want to pair that with Color Motion Plus if you are doing a color service, because you want to make sure that you are using products that are moisture rich. Anytime you see frizz, you want to think about the fact that the hair does not have enough moisture. So you constantly want to be adding moisture back into that product. So pH balance is important, but also the moisture. All right, so I'm just tapping that root just like this. And if I was going salon speed, she'd be done. All right, now I'm going to just take her to the side. Perfect. And what I like to do is I like to tap the root first because it makes it easy to control. So I just like to go in. Let me move my head down just a little bit. All right, so you guys will be able to see me. Okay, so I'm gonna go in and just tap the root, and I'm gonna line that up just the same, like I did in the back. And then I'm gonna take vertical slices, so I'm gonna go in just like this. And I'm going to take a comb. I always like to use a comb whenever I'm doing any sort of color melting. And I like to pick the hair up just like this, and I like to over direct it back. And then I can meet that color and follow it all the way into the front of our hair. Obviously, if you want to have a heavier money piece, you're not going to want to color, that heavy piece to, drag it down too deep. But also, if you do want to have like more of an impact around the face, you can see my money piece. I have the dark dragged down a little bit darker, and that allows me to have the depth around my face, which I really like, but still have the pop around my nose area. So really, you want to custom tailor your looks based off of, your client's face shape or where they like to see the lightness around their face. For someone like me, even though I have highs and lows in my hair, it's really important that I do have some depth around my face so that way I'm not so washed out. So these are all the things that you want to keep in mind when you are creating a look for your client. Because one thing that I've heard, I'm sure you guys can agree, is that everybody loves a money piece until they get it. Some clients think that they want it because they see it, but then they get it and they think it's too bold or too bright. And so you can always custom tailor that look, obviously using Shinefinity. And another thing too is if you need to do any sort of color balancing or corrective work and you need to do it in a pinch, let's just say you lighten too high up and you really want to make sure that you put a color into the hair that's going to stay but still not give you any lift. That's why Shinefinity is so important, because it will give you the flexibility to be creative as an artist as well. And in the chat, like I said, if there's anything that you guys want to know, feel free to ask me.
Awesome. We actually have a question from Nora. She's asking, what's your go-to blonde tone? So maybe speaking of money pieces, and if you have a go-to blonde tone formula that you like to use from Shinefinity, feel free to share.
Yes, okay. So Nora, that is such a good question, because I'm actually using, as you guys see on my page, I always like to work with natural levels. I like to work with warm tones. I like to work with cool tones, but I like more of balance than I do. Like, I'm not so far off into the ash area, and I'm not so far off into warm. I'm in that neutral area. So what I love is the 09 stroke 13, which is a very light blonde, but it's an ash gold. So it's so beautiful. I mean, I'll pull the mannequin head up once I'm done so you can see, but it is just gorgeous. So again, I'm just gonna speed through this, do the other side. But yeah, Shinefinity is just amazing. So I'm taking all the hair, pulling it back away from the face, and then I'm going to go to the other side, do the same. And the spreadability of this line is incredible. So I like to work on damp hair, but even on dry hair. So you have to think of the fact that when the hair is damp, there's a little bit of a buffer. So the hair is still going to fully process on damp hair, but the translucency will change. So that's why I like to work on damp hair. If you're doing like a corrective service, or you really want to get the most out of your reds, or you're filling the hair, then go ahead and use it on dry hair. So really it just depends on what your desired outcome is. So both will be just fine. But like I said, I like to already have the placement in the hair, and then I like to accentuate it. So damp is my go-to, because I don't normally blow dry the client after. I just put the gloss on, color melt, and then I finish my service. Again, Color Motion Plus is going to be the line of choice if you're wanting to keep this color nice and beautiful in the hair. So that is definitely a recommendation as far as products go.
Yeah, we actually had a question from Helene. She's asking, are they going to go any higher than levels 9? And I think that's a great way to talk about our clear.
Yes, okay, so we do have, this is another reason why I love this line so much, is because we do have so much flexibility. Not only can we intermix the shades, but we also have, as a part of our booster family, we have clear. So the cool thing about clear is there is a scale in which you can mix a 06 stroke 07 or a 09 stroke. Well, actually, let me talk more on the 9 levels. So if you want to make the 09 stroke 13 or any of the 09s into a level 10, you would mix it with a clear glaze. And there is a formula for that. And depending on the translucency of the color and how much you want to make it a level 10, like you want to also think about how much of a color impact you want to leave. So a lot of people think, okay, I want a level 10, right? But you have to remember there's only a certain amount of pigment at that level. So really, really make sure that you really want it to be level 10. And that's why that scale is going to be so important for you guys to look at, because that is going to give you sort of an idea of how much of the pigment you're going to be removing and how much of the level you're going to be lightening. So those are 2 factors that you want to take into consideration. But definitely, using the clear glaze to dilute the color is something that's going to give you, again, endless possibilities. That was a good question. Keep them coming.
Awesome. Thank you.
So she's almost done, really. Like I said, if I was going salon speed, she would be done very quickly.
20 minutes ago. No good.
Yeah, she would have been done. But so all I'm doing really is I'm just working that color back. And now I'm going to take the back of her hair. I like to take the wide tooth part of my comb, and then I just want to drag it down, right? Because even though I'm dragging it down, there's this fear that the color is going to bleed into the blonde, and that just won't happen. The hair is damp. So, and then immediately after I drag this color down, I'm going to add the light tones to the mid-lengths and the ends. And so what I do, and I do this for all my clients, I just go in, and you can really just work this product back like this, and then work it down. And that is going to give you the most seamless melt. So I like to pull that color away from the face. Think about when you're pulling the hair back and you're just sort of creating that natural depth to make the hair look seamless. And then what I do, so there, she's already melted. That was just so easy and quick. That's why I wanted you guys to see that. Is I'm going to go in and I'm going to take that same section that I did in the back with my melt. I'm going to work it all back like this. And starting at where I want my drop to begin, I'm going to take my bottle. So I always use both. I always use the bowl and brush and the bottle when I'm doing a color melt, or a shimmer melt glaze. So, but if I'm doing just like a shimmer glaze where not shimmer melt, if I'm just doing a Shinefinity glaze, I'm just going to use my bottle. And then I'm just going to drizzle that color right on. Another thing I want to talk about is how amazing this product is to create satisfactory reels that are going to perform very well on your page. A lot of times what I notice is whenever which is something that I did a long time ago, is I started to make the glazing or the when I went in and I did my little zigzag and I used that as a cover photo for my reels, I noticed that my reels did amazing. So it's always those kind of cover photos when you are doing social media that are going to get the attention and make people want to watch your reels. So that's just like another little social media tip I have, where you may be busy or working, but just getting that shot and then maybe doing a beginning and an end look using Shinefinity is going to be amazing. And that might help, boost your posts even more.
Awesome. We're getting lots of great engagement, interactions in the chat. Nora just said this is incredibly helpful. Thank you so much for providing this education for us. So,
Oh, you're very
awesome job. And we also got a question of what's your favorite rich caramel tone?
Okay, so so the rich caramel tones, depending on the level, caramel for me is always a level 7. If you need a little bit control, because we know, right, when we lift the hair to a level 7, sometimes you're going to have a lot of the underlying pigment exposed. And so but there's varying degrees of that pigment, and that's another conversation. So some people will lift to, everyone lifts warm, we know that. So when we lift to a level 7, depending on the texture, depending on the amount of underlying pigment, all of that, those are so many variables. So some people lift to like a balanced, still warm but balanced level 7, and some people lift a little bit crazy or unpredictable. So when you have the unpredictability in your lift, you definitely want to formulate a level down. So you want to lift to at least the brightness that you want, and then you adjust the tone by dragging it down. And so that way you have more control in your color. And that's where a lot of people are scared, because they think, well, I don't want my client to look dark. But if you take it down just a level, so let's just say your end goal is a 7, you lifted her to maybe like a bright 8, 7, 8, you can't tone her at that level, or else you're not going to have enough strength in your formula, especially if you're doing a corrective glaze. So you're going to have to take her down one level to be able to have enough of the underlying pigment, or enough of the pigment in the color to be able to control it. So there's just so much that you can do with this line. That's what I'm saying, and it's still translucent, so it's not going to be dark, it's not going to be heavy. And if you're thinking about what we have within the Wella portfolio, where we have the permanent color lines, we have KP, we have aluminum. You want to think of those as like gray coverage, you want to think of those as full saturation, you want to think of those as bold, and then you're thinking of color touch, which would be a little bit more, still having a little bit of alkalinity, but still, going to give you like, not so much a lacquer, but give you kind of like, it's going to give you a punch, it's going to give you control, it's going to give you all of these things and still be bright. But what happens when you move into Shinefinity is, think of control, but translucent control. So you know that you're going to put this color on and it's going to be sheer, but depending on the level, you're going to have more pigment within that color. So and no lift. So it's really just going to be for depth, it's going to be for shine, it's going to give you brightness, but it's not going to be heavy.
Love that pro tip. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, all right, I'm just going in.
Yep.
And then I just like to melt it.
Yeah, you're getting lots of hearts, lots of loves.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. And like I said, I'm going to show you guys again. I'll show you the mannequin head that I created. I did my placement still the same. You guys know my pin and hair placement with the lots of dimension. But also that you're able to create different results depending on your color melting style, or what you're going for, or what your client wants to see. I just find that whenever I'm doing a consultation with my client, I ask them, okay, where do you like to see dark? And a lot of people say, oh, I like to see dark around my face because I feel like it gives me a nice contour. So those are some things. Okay, so I know that I need to leave the underneath dark, but I do like to see brightness around my face, but not too high. So these are kind of descriptive ways that you can give your client a consultation. And I was taught this by my mentor, and it's really been the key to my success, especially when it comes to dealing with my clients, because I'm able to go in and say, tell me what you have now and what you would change. And then I can say, okay, so you like dark hair, so we're gonna leave that. You kind of put the appointment in their hands, but still by being able to be creative and being an artist and still giving them your professional, input, or, oh, let's try this color. Oh, you know what? These are complementary. Let me show you the swatch against your skin. Tell me what you think. Maybe this is something you haven't thought about. All of these things, and just really making them feel like you are able to be more than just a service provider. You're able to be an artist and an artist for them. All right, so after I put this on, I'm going to move along to the other side. And then I'm going to show you a quick tip on how you can add internal dimension and still leave a lot of brightness. So lastly, I'm just going to go on this side really quickly. And as you can see, I kind of wanted to let this stay on just a little bit longer because I wanted you guys to see how this color does not move, especially with the bowl and brush activator. I put it on the roots and I dragged it down, but it did not melt any further than where I combed it, so it stopped. You guys can see it didn't drag down into the mid-lengths and ends. There's no spotting, anything like that. So that's another thing that is amazing about the activator. There we go.
Yeah, and can you talk about the lastingness of Shinefinity? I mean, we claim lasts up to 20 shampoos, but how do you find the wear and the shine?
Okay, so which is exactly why I have it in my hair this time. What I want to talk about is the pH balance technology, and that is way you're going to be able to tell the story of longevity. So a lot of times when people color their hair, the biggest concern that they have is that their color is going to fade and it'll be out of their hair in 2 or 3 washes. Well, because we have the pH balance technology, which is the newest innovation in demi-color and zero lift color out on the market, it's the most amazing innovation because it is going to give you translucency, it's going to give you true zero lift, but it's also going to, like I said, start mildly alkaline, and we know about the science behind hair coloring with something is mildly alkaline. It allows the cuticle to swell, it allows the color to go inside of the cuticle, and then when it becomes acidic, it balances out the hair, and that is what gives you longevity. So that is why we make that claim, and that is why it's super important to tell your clients and kind of have them think of this not just as a gloss, but truly as a glazing service that is richer, more dynamic, that's going to give them shine. It's just going to upgrade their service, and even because of that, you're able to upgrade your ticket because you are giving something to your clients that they will feel, and you're giving them beautiful, healthy hair with shine they can feel over time. I mean, I have so many clients that will text me and be like, my hair is so shiny, like even when I'm at home styling it, because this is one thing when your stylist does your hair and you leave, right? And then you go and you know, or a lot of people feel like, well, my hair is not gonna be the same, it's just because you're styling it. But a lot of my clients will actually text me back and say, my hair is so manageable and it's so shiny, and even when I do it myself, I feel like I do a better job taking care of it, and you know, it brushes easier, it just looks healthier. So that is in itself extremely valuable and what your clients want to see. All right, so she's done here. Now I want to show you guys a little bit, and this is a way, think about the hair where it's lightened, and think about this as being a veil of lightness, right? So you have your drop, you have your depth, you have your melt, all the way into the lighter ends. Okay, so what happens over time is, as artists, we tend to lighten our clients, and we don't really put color back in the hair, which is extremely important. So that, to me, is a missing link when it comes to any sort of hair artistry, when it comes in the color world. In order for you to truly see brightness in the hair and define brightness, define blonde, there has to be a source of depth in that hair. The level's up to you, the level's up to whatever the client is comfortable with, but you guys have to find that sort of balance between light and dark, so that way the blonde truly looks blonde, and the hair just overall looks better, right? So I found a way to be able to do this and create internal depth with still having sort of, and it goes along with the term veil. So the veil of lightness over the internal depth, matched with the shine of Shinefinity, which is the shimmer melt glaze. So we're gonna go in, and any place that you're gonna add depth back into the hair, you wanna make sure that there's a veil of lightness. So that way, when the client curls her hair or she does anything like that, she's not going to look dark, but then all of a sudden, all of these different layers are gonna come through when her hairstyle. So I'm gonna go into the side, and this is what I do. This is a simple way, even if you're doing like a correction, or the client maybe, might be going from a highlighted look into more of a painted look, all of that. What you wanna do is, after you already have your service, you already have your melted color into the hair, as you guys can see, that looks really beautiful. What you want to do is you want to go internally and just cut into the hair, just like this. And instead of creating a super dark low light here, what you can do, because you already have the level 9 on top, is you can take what's remaining in your bowl of the level 6, and you can melt that right on top. So you create a nice mid-tone from the top of the hair that's already been processed to the melted level 9 with the level 6 mixed in. And you can just drop that down, and that will help to kind of diffuse what was lightened here, give her some depth, but not create a stripe, just some depth. And I always like to do this no matter what I'm doing, really. I always want to make sure that there's more than 2 tones in the hair. Because if there's only 2 tones and there's not a mid-tone, especially on darker hair, it just doesn't look great. So I always encourage my clients to embrace some sort of warmth. There's a difference between warmth and under process. Warmth is balanced and pleasing to the eye. Under processed is still, the hair needs to be either tone darker, or it needs more time to sit on the hair and get to the desired level. I can just keep going on and on.
No, we love it. People are loving it too. Another question from Kelly is, how is the coverage for gray hair when using Shinefinity?
That is a good question, because when we want to think of, we think of the color portfolio of Wella, and there's a place for every color that we have. So when you want to think about gray coverage, you want to think about KP, gray blending, you want to get into color touch. If you want a slight, I'm talking like a very, very gentle kind of like veil of color on your grays, but not coverage, then you can use Shinefinity. But if you have a client who wants coverage, this is not the line for them, and we have to go back to the science, right? So anytime we are doing gray coverage, what has to happen is there has to be an alkaline story, and depending on the amount of alkalinity in the colors where you're going to actually get the coverage. So because this starts off mildly alkaline but becomes acidic, there really is no way that this line can give you gray coverage. But it is a part of the, so sort of the science behind KP, which is for gray coverage, and Shinefinity, is the way that it's formulated. The color lines, the two of them can work together. So you can do gray coverage at the roots, and then you can use Shinefinity on the mid-lengths and ends, and they can be married together. They can be melted together because of the science. One is going to give you gray coverage, one is going to give you a translucent veil of color, which is going to be complementary to whatever you're doing at the root. So that was a really good question.
Yeah, I agree. Either Colesson Perfect or even Illumina color can be used at the roots and then
Yeah,
glaze with Shinefinity.
we're talking gray coverage as far as like if you want to do like full gray coverage. I have a lot of them. If you guys go onto my Instagram, painted hair. If you go and look, I have so many looks that I've created because I do have a lot of ladies that come in, and because of my schedule, it's really hard for me to see them every 4 to 6 weeks. So they just kind of wait until I can get them in. So a lot of them have a lot of grays, and so I do like to tell that KP, the Colton Perfect story mixed with Shinefinity. But Illumina is great for that as well. Illumina is beautiful. So any permanent color within the Wella portfolio can be used in conjunction with Shinefinity, whether it's Colton Perfect or Illumina. So yeah, she is all done. I always like to comb through. One thing I want to talk about is the fact that when I am doing sort of a melting service, I like to do that in the chair. And this is just my opinion. This is just sort of how I do things. But what I find is that when I started to do that, or when I do that, my client's like, oh, this is different. Like, normally I just get like a quick toner at the bowl and then we're done. And so whenever you take the time, the extra few minutes to really upgrade your service, that allows room for it just elevates what you're doing. It just elevates your service. It makes you look elevated. It makes your client feel like you're taking the time to really look through their hair and comb through it and place it. It gives you the confidence that you're not missing a spot, because that can happen a lot of times when the client is in the scene. It just makes the client feel like, wow, she's taking the time on me. So because we all know that prices have gone up with everything that's been going on in the world, and so when you do say, okay, well, I need to increase my prices, which is kind of an uncomfortable conversation already, not only do you have an amazing product that's going to give your client something that they can feel, they'll take it home and they'll feel the health in their hair, and already that is going to help you increase your ticket price, but also just the little things like taking your client, bringing them back to the chair, performing the shimmer melt glaze service on them, which is an additional part of something else you can add to your ticket. So your clients will feel confidence in you, and they'll say, you know what, she's totally worth the increase, and so I'm going to do that for her because she goes the extra mile for me. And I want this industry to be elevated, and that's why I'm so passionate about this line and what we've created. So yeah, let me just show you one last time, if I can get her on the camera right. So this is what it looks like in the back. This is the shimmer melt glaze, and her placement is identical to what I just showed you guys on the mannequin. So when she looks down, she still has a lot of those internal flicks of darkness, but still the light throughout her hair, which is super important. So if you want to change the depth of your low light, you don't necessarily have to go as dark. You can choose another shade and just balance what she already has. But I really, for me, high contrast hair painting is everything. High contrast foil work. I work with a lot of slices. Everything is just, bold, like me. So that was what I created. This is what I showed you guys how to do. And I'm going to show you how beautiful it looks with her hair just sort of developing. Look, I'm just leaving it on.
We had some comments.
Yeah?
Oh, sorry. We had some comments saying that when you were applying Shinefinity through the lengths and ends, they could tell it was really smooth, easy to work with color. And
So
someone else
easy.
commented that their clients love how it leaves their hair manageable and tangle free.
That, and I want to talk about the scent. So the scent was a huge sort of, like personal kind of story we wanted to tell, because there's always been such a, like, I wouldn't say a negative, but when people think of something like an acidic line, they think of it as strong. So they think of the scent as being really strong and heavy, and like you almost have to like back away when you put it on the hair and come back, or like cover your client's face. With this line, we were able to tailor this scent to be so amazing, and so, like, I feel like everybody that smells this, including the client, no matter who, I mean, I will be like, smell this, like to ask my daughter, ask my husband, smell this, what does it smell like to you? Or even the people that have already used it, like the Fashionistas in the Wella community, or whoever was behind R&D, we know there's a scent to it, but we cannot pinpoint it. It's like fresh air. It's like a fresh air of, like a fresh air in a field of flowers. It's just, and it's not heavily floral, it's just such a light scent that everybody loves it. So it is, not only does it glide through the hair seamlessly, but also the scent is so beautiful, I would say. And so I'm going to show you guys really quickly one more time, kind of the starting level of this mannequin. She just didn't have much going on. And again, I'm going to compare her to this one. So you're really able to see a lot of that. There you go, that's a good one.
Pretty, I love the dimension.
Yeah, isn't that so? So this just gives you guys like an idea of how dimension plays a role in your color story, and how dimension doesn't necessarily always have to be super dark. You can play with dimension, you can play, even let's just say you want to add like a natural against a warm or whatever, you can really, really be creative with the story and sort of the artistry behind what you're doing. So this is the side view. I'm just trying to get them lined up, and this is the side view. And there's her melt right there. And then again, with this really beautiful sort of, waved. And she also had the melt in her hair too. But look at how gorgeous and seamless that transition is. And I just let her air dry naturally. I didn't style her at all. I just sort of like fluffed her up. And that's what I got.
Yeah, I love the loose waves. Pretty.
Not so pretty. What happened was I was doing like so many mannequins, I had them all over the place, and I just didn't get a chance to finish her last night. So when I came back and the way she dried, I was like, oh my gosh, because if I didn't have the Shinefinity in her hair, she would have been crazy. Her hair would have probably been frizzy and all of that. But I just literally put the glaze on. I shampooed her. I did, I used Blonderplex with 20 volume. That's another thing too, slow and low whenever you're lifting. All of these mannequins were lightened with Blonderplex and 20 volume. As you guys know, or if you don't know, Blonderplex has the anti-yellow molecule in it. It will give you 7 levels of lift, and it also will protect the bond. So it has the bonder inside of it and inside of the powder. And so what you do is you pair it with Wellaplex step number 2, and that will give your client up to 97% less breakage. The lift is amazing. As you guys know, I primarily have, dark-haired clients, and so 20 volume just seems to be the ticket, especially when I'm coiling. If I'm doing any sort of painting, I will go for 30 volume, even with my free lights. But again, it just really, you want to, start off with 20 volume and see where you go, especially in foils. So if you guys have any other questions or anything, that you want to know, definitely let me know. But I just want to quickly open up this swatch book and the shade book. So if you guys do get a chance to get a shape book, it is going to be such an amazing tool for you because you're really able to see exactly, what colors we have in our portfolio, what can be mixed together, sort of this background story. It'll tell the depth. As you know, because this is a zero lift color, the newest thing that we have when it comes to the color line is instead of the depth being just the first number, we're adding a 0 in front of it. So the 0 indicates that this is zero lift, zero damage. So that was actually really cool. So the 09, the stroke, and so after the stroke, you're going to have the major tone and the minor tone, and that's all in our numbering system. So this is a really useful book to have.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's all part of the giveaway. So we left the instructions in the chat of, just comment or share for a chance to win all of the products that were used in this Facebook Live today. So I think this is awesome. We got lots of great engagement. Thank you so much, Patricia. This was so helpful, and you're always so inspirational and also providing quality education.
Thank you. Thank you guys very much for having me, and thank you guys for watching. Also, if you have any questions, you feel free to send me a DM or follow me on Instagram because I'll be posting a bunch of videos and just sharing them on the channel on Wella Hair and Wella Hair USA. So thank you guys so much.